pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Allegiance and indivisible, with liberty and
Okay, please call the roll.
Board Member Connolly?
Here.
Board Member Lucero? Board Member Ritter?
Present.
Board Member Kimmelshoe?
Here.
Board Member Teeter?
Here.
Board Member Bush?
You're muted, John.
Board Member Bush?
Here, had to push the button.
Board Member Lucero? Board Member Casey Reynolds? Here. Board Member Calderon?
here,
Board Member Chuck Reynolds? Board Member Jones? Here. For the record, Board Member Lucero is here.
Okay, good. Would any board member care to pull anything from the consent agenda? The public make any comment on the consent agenda?
None.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
That's the third. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
There it is, it's unanimous, right? So, we have number 6, approval of letter of support to California Energy Commission for renewable hydrogen production facility in Paradise. Andy.
Good morning, board. This is an item bringing forward to you a letter of support for the production of a hydrogen facility in what we believe is in a county jurisdiction. We were approached by our consultant who's developing the zero emissions rollout plan that they are applying for a grant with the California Energy Commission to support the development of a fuel grade hydrogen production facility in the county, to the extent that based on the amount of biomass that's available to produce hydrogen, they came to us. It's a little bit of an unrelated effort, not anything that BCAG specifically is working on, but because we're working on the zero emissions vehicles transition plan, and hydrogen fuel is one of those technologies that we are interested in pursuing, we think it's a good idea to support the development of something like that. I really don't have very many details at all about exactly where it is. I do know that there is a rather large corporation behind it that has one of their focuses being energy development and particularly hydrogen fuel. So they came to us and said, would you guys be interested in getting on board to support this effort? And for us, it makes good sense, but ultimately, on behalf of all the jurisdictions, we wanted to bring it before the board and see if it was something that the board was interested in doing, and asking the board chair to sign on the behalf of the board to support this application. We don't really have any timeframes as to when they would do this. It just at this point is really an application for the grant. It does sound like that the effort would produce an amount of fuel, and they have stated a number in here, the production of looks like about 3.8 million kilograms of hydrogen per year. I am not really aware of, it sounds like a big number. One of my questions for them just was, how big is that? What does that really represent? Apparently that's a large enough number to fuel all the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles on the road in the country right now. So sounds like it's a pretty big number, and they believe that there is a sustainable source of biomass to produce this effort. So we think it's a good idea, but ultimately wanted to bring it to the board for consideration before we send any support off.
Questions or comments by board members?
This is Tammy. I had one question. Does this, I know it's pretty early on. I'm just curious, what is the proposal in terms of storage? I get that it's within close proximity to BCAG, which is great. But what I've been reading, the major issue around it, aside from being a very expensive fuel to produce, is how it is stored. And so I'm just curious if that is part of the proposal that has been sussed out a little bit, or where the planning is for where the storage location would be.
Unfortunately, no details at all. However, Board Member Teeter might be able to answer a couple of those questions.
Okay.
Still in the early phases, and
Mhm.
they're looking for, the Fire Safe Council Board just recently approved entering into an MOU with the other players in this project. And it kind of outlined what each player would do. And the Fire Safe Council is obviously tasked with helping to figure out how much biomass is available. Doing studies have been done, but finalizing that for the folks that want to invest in the facility, and then also the folks that will take the hydrogen and purchase that and deliver it to where their customers are. So it's really early. They're just
Okay.
looking for some. I just got in the mail because I have a big truck that CARB is doing some rulemaking changes and hydrogen solutions. So it's early on.
Okay, I just didn't know if any of that information had been talked about. I'm supportive of this proposal, or at least of the letter to support exploring it. Absolutely. I just was curious if there was any discussion of the storage location. Yeah.
I don't think it's worked out enough for me to say. I've been on the subcommittee that's been discussing that for the Fire Safe Council's portion. It's just not finalized. There's a few places they've talked about, but I don't think it's worth mentioning at this time. I feel that the letter should just kind of be generic in location, that somewhere in Butte County at this point. So, but my understanding has been always unincorporated locations that are advantageous zoned-wise for a facility such as this.
Okay,
So
great. Thank you.
Any other
Bill,
questions?
Bill? Hello?
Go ahead.
Listen, this is a subject dear to me in a way and kind of scary in another way. The word biomass bothers me a lot, and I say these things without I'm not really opposed to anything, but somebody needs to show me, and I think it should, how this operation plans to support itself with this thing we call biomass. And the reason that I'm a bit negative here is that I spent about 10 years looking at alternative energies and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I came across was, and I'm going to ask for your apology, or I'm going to apologize before I say this, but I have a binder full of incidences and correspondence and so on and so forth regarding biomass. And one of the things that stands out to me is that I believe the number, there again, forgive me if I'm incorrect, I believe the number is 167 biomass plant startups in California. So far as I know, of those 167, there are only 3 left. And what happens with biomass is it's a dragon. It eats itself. If years ago when I first started looking at this, I saw we had a criteria of, well, I gotta have input biomass on the door, dry, ready to go. at $35 a ton to make an efficient operation. And well, that's fine. We have it. Look at all the trees. We've got it. Well, what happens is the dragon eats the trees. Then they got to go out further and look for more trees. And the further they go from the plant, the higher the fuel cost becomes. I don't want to, I'm a little bit emotional here about this subject because of the lack of progress or the lack of anything real coming of it. Little town of Lakeview, Oregon has a current disaster going on with such an operation. They were, they promised the moon, but it never really happens. In my opinion, and I'll shut up after this statement, the only way that biomass works or could work because of the cost is as a byproduct of a mill plant or whatever that is operating for some other purpose. A sawmill, for example, they could use their waste stream to create that fuel from that waste stream to create whatever they need in terms of heat to make some kind of energy from it. And so beyond that, sorry to say, but I'm a little bit, that the biomass word bothers me a little bit. And I think we ought to be, there again, I'm all for the letter. I'm all for progress. But if I think we need to, as time goes on, monitor this situation very carefully. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I just have a question too. This is Deborah. My understanding of the biomass plant as presented to our board was that due to the wildfires and the enormous amount of biomass sitting in our forests, the reason it would be best situated in Paradise is that it's close to the source. Is that what you understood also, Doug?
Since that was directed to me, Paradise is not probably the viable biomass source for a plant. It'd actually be coming from national forest lands, and bigger roads like 32 or 70 would be probably the haul routes ultimately towards the plant. There's also orchard waste. There's really no orchard waste solution that is in close proximity anymore. I believe the nearest one is up in Anderson. And so instead of having orchards burning their waste wood, they might find a market to bring it to this plant. So it's more than just the forest. It's also our ag community that could utilize this and hopefully be an economic profit for them to do so. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking about Randy McLaughlin's operation there in Durham. I know they do some of this, and there had been talk of a plant there. Anyway, I'm just wondering if this letter is specific to the site in Paradise.
I've actually, if once we get through public comment, would like to make the motion that we remove Paradise and just put Butte County in it to leave the most flexibility. But to just go on about Mr. McLaughlin's operation, he could see this as a place to sell. He, obviously has places that he goes to, but as Mr. Bush mentioned, there's very few of those places left anymore. And sometimes, especially now that there's kind of a dearth of chips out there, the prices probably aren't very advantageous for him. So this could be a place for him to sell his chips.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion. I think.
Thank you, Supervisor Conley. Yeah, I move to approve the letter with the change of location to just be Butte County.
I'll second that.
Oh, you're a little late.
Oh, okay, sorry. My sound might be on delay here.
Heard it though. I'm just gonna call for a voice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I hear no opposition, it passes unanimously.
Gordon.
Thank you.
Now we gotta go to item for information.
Good morning. This next item is the kickoff of the 2022 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, the RTIP development, and call for projects. BCAG, as the RTPA for the region, is required to prepare and adopt a Regional Transportation Improvement Program for programming projects into the State Transportation Improvement Program. The STIP is adopted by the California Transportation Commission. The purpose of the RTIP is to identify this region's programming recommendations for the next 5 fiscal years, beginning July 1st of 2022. The STIP is comprised of 2 components: the RTIP by regional agencies, and that's comprised of 75% of the STIP. The other piece is 25% at the discretion of Caltrans for their interregional improvement program. So this is our piece of the STIP. The schedule, BCAG initiated this process with its Transportation Advisory Committee, made up of your Public Works directors, earlier this month. We are formally kicking off this process today, so we gave them a heads up. We initiated this call for projects with applications due by October 1st, with a draft RTIP to the BCAG board at the October board meeting and adoption at the December board meeting. The STIP is scheduled to be adopted by the California Transportation Commission in March of next year. Funding. Caltrans and the California Transportation Commission prepare what's called a fund estimate, which tells us how much money we have to program over the next 5 fiscal year. What's unique and different this cycle is that the region received Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021 funds in the amount of $2.3 million. The STIP only portion is 10.4. So we have a combined total of 12.7 million of programming capacity for new project considerations. There are 4 basic requirements, which are straight out of the STIP guidelines for all projects for consideration. First, they have to be derived from BCAG's long-range regional transportation plan sustainable community strategy. Each project also has to have its project study report or equivalent, which scopes out and vets the project. There has to be some performance measure. We need to be able to quantify the benefit, such as VMT, vehicle miles traveled reduction, an air quality benefit, a greenhouse gas or MOCHIP, those types of quantifiable benefits. In addition, each applicant is required to prepare and submit an electronic project programming request form. It's just a spreadsheet that identifies the basic scope, benefits, and funding that we use for programming. Regarding criteria for evaluation, BCAG is working on this evaluation criteria that will be consistent with the goals of the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, the CAPTI, which was built from the Governor's Executive Orders N1919 and N7920. These executive orders and the CAPTI are expected to become the basis for which all transportation funding is delivered. Additionally, BCAG is required to report progress on federal performance measures that staff brings to the board, to the Federal Highway Administration, as well as reporting to the California Air Resources Board under SB 375 requirements for achieved greenhouse gas reductions.
This is the direction of all programming statewide. So that's different. Also, what's different in this RTIP for the STIP is we no longer have to program the Highway 70 corridor. So it's really our first time. All right. So that's the big difference in this new shift in ensuring that we are consistent with our programming recommendations for this CAPDI and working towards those objectives. Staff has identified typical benefits that we're going to be looking for in this evaluation. Greenhouse gas reduction, vehicle miles travel reduction, development and integration of public transit, multimodal, mode shift, those types of benefits. Significant expansion of equitable transportation opportunities to underserved communities, and above all, safety. This is an information item. Again, we've presented this to the TAC. It was suggested that they reach out to BCAG before they formalize a project application, before they go too far down a road. And a draft will be presented in October, and staff will also have a public workshop in September to give public the opportunity to provide input. Just an information item, it's a good thing, $12.7 million to program.
Questions or comments from the board?
I just have a question. Is there a short list of projects being considered?
Staff is aware of one project from the city of Chico. I think the intent is to leverage regional improvement program funds with Caltrans' State Highway Operations and Protection Program. Caltrans is doing a $13 million overlay through Gridley from West Evans Road, the signal light, all the way through town, and the city's exploring trying to do bike and ped improvements on one side of the highway to leverage and take advantage of the cost savings by Caltrans delivering that. And it fits with these objectives. Just to throw on an example of something that could be done, recently the city of Chico redid Park Avenue with those turn pockets, bike lanes, stuff like that. Congestion relief, safety.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chico Bella on routes they use for their events to improve, I guess, the viability and safety of their events? Just kind of curious.
A specific event, we would need more information.
Seeing that, you know, one of the bullets is expansion of bicycle infrastructure. So I was just curious if we've brought them in and said, hey, where do you think we should make bike lanes for
Chico,
your benefit or the community? I mean, it's the community's benefit.
right. I would think so. And Chico Velo is part of BCAG's Transportation Advisory Committee. They also participate in the City of Chico's Bicycle Advisory Committee, as well as Chico State.
Are they aware that there's 12 million some?
They are.
They are. Right. Just asking.
Mm-hmm.
We need more events. How about,
I agree.
we need gravel grinders too. I'm sure you all would agree because I know what you guys do.
Sounds like you're saying staff needs the gravel bike.
Why not? You know, if you want to.
All right, any other questions?
Information.
70's looking good. I go down there once a week just to look at it.
It's impressive.
I think we should call it the
Started
Bill
working on it.
Connolly Freeway.
No, I don't think so. I'm still alive.
I didn't say memorial.
But I did have a suggestion for the bridges. There was a dear friend, there's 5 brothers that grew up the street from me, and he was killed on that bridge. And his Bruce Journey, he was killed in the head on. No escape route or anything. The other individual was intoxicated. It was awful. Maybe you want to look into that bridge after him. Bruce Journey, his father was a school superintendent, principal, and he just retired from the hospital. Still. All right, at this time, we'll take public comment. Anybody from the public want to comment? We'll take it without taking any action. None? Anybody out there want to be public for once? step right on up and sing a song. All right, meeting adjourned. We'll see you back here next time, September 20, on the glasses.
Third.
Third, right here.